I was just an ordinary girl living in a small town, carrying dreams that felt too big for the world I knew. My afternoons had a rhythm of their own. I would leave home, walk the same dusty streets, and push open the glass door of a small internet cafe tucked between a bakery and a convenience store. That place became more than a stop in my routine. It became a doorway to a world I couldn't reach otherwise. At home, there was a computer. Yes, but no internet. My parents had cut it off, convinced it consumed too much of my time. My mother used to say I was addicted, that I lived more in the glow of the screen than in the warmth of real life. Maybe she wasn't entirely wrong, but she didn't understand. The internet wasn't just distraction. It was connection, discovery, a way of being seen and heard in ways I couldn't achieve in the quiet streets of my neighborhood. So I became a regular at the cafe. 3, sometimes 4 times a week, I'd take a seat in front of those bulky monitors, slide on the cheap headphones, and log into a different world. It smelled faintly of dust and fried snacks, the hum of machines blending with whispers of other kids chatting and laughing. To me, it felt like home in disguise. Most days, I spent those hours scrolling through Facebook, checking my messages, and chatting on MSN with classmates. It was a routine comfort, nothing more, till the day everything changed. That afternoon, like so many others, I sat at the computer, not expecting anything extraordinary. My hands rested lazily on the keyboard, my mind drifting between homework and the comfort of escape. And then, a message appeared on the screen. Just a few words, nothing too different from what a friend might write. "Hey, Adriana, how are you?" I frowned. I didn't recognize the sender. The profile name wasn't familiar at all. It wasn't even a real name. Instead, the sender called himself Love Wolf. A strange choice, half mysterious, half ridiculous. For a second, I almost ignored it, thinking it was spam. But curiosity got the better of me, and I typed back, "I'm fine. Who are you?" The reply came quickly, as if he had been waiting for me to notice. "You look beautiful today in that blue top." I froze. My heart skipped a beat, and I felt heat rising in my face. I was wearing a blue blouse, and he had described it perfectly. I immediately turned my head, scanning the cafe, trying to spot someone who might be watching me. Nothing. Just the usual faces buried in screens, clicking away, laughing at memes I couldn't hear. No one suspicious. A shiver ran through me. "How could he know?" I wrote back, my fingers trembling slightly. "Do we know each other? How do you know what I'm wearing?" His answer came with unsettling calm. "I live in the neighborhood. I just saw you walking by earlier." It sounded plausible, but something about it made me uneasy. I pressed again. "That's fine, but do I know you? Who are you really?" "Well," he wrote, "that depends. I know you. But you don't know me. Not yet." His words struck something inside me, fear mixed with fascination. On one hand, I knew I should be cautious. My mother's warnings echoed in my mind. Be careful who you talk to online. Not everyone is who they say they are. And yet, there was something intoxicating about the way he wrote, the mystery wrapped around every sentence. That was the first time the ordinary rhythm of my life skipped a beat. A stranger behind a glowing screen had seen me, really seen me. He had noticed my blouse, my makeup, even the small details I thought no one paid attention to. And though part of me whispered danger, another part whispered something far more dangerous: romance. That day, I walked home restless, his words repeating in my mind. Who was this Love Wolf? Why had he chosen me? And why, despite my unease, did I feel a spark of excitement inside me? I didn't know then that this first message would unravel into something much bigger, something that would test my heart in ways I had never imagined. But sitting in front of that screen, staring at the strange pseudonym glowing back at me, I knew one thing for certain. My life had just changed forever. After that first unexpected message, I thought maybe it would stop there. A strange hello, a compliment from someone I didn't know, and then silence. But it didn't. If anything, it only deepened. The very next day, when I logged into the cafe's computer, his presence was already waiting for me, like a shadow that knew exactly when I would appear. Another message popped up almost instantly. "You look even prettier today with your hair down." My stomach knotted. I had indeed left my hair loose that afternoon, letting it fall around my shoulders instead of tying it back as I usually did. My eyes darted across the room again, searching every face. Who was watching me so closely? It wasn't just my hair. Soon, he began pointing out details I hadn't even paid attention to myself. The shade of eyeliner I wore, the way my earrings caught the light, the sneakers I had chosen that morning. Every observation was unsettlingly precise. It was as if he wasn't only seeing me, he was studying me. For the first time, fear crept into what had at first seemed almost flattering. Was this just some harmless admirer, or was it something darker? My mother's voice, the cautionary stories I had overheard on the news, all of it flashed through my mind. Girls meeting strangers online, tricked by sweet words, led into traps. Could I be one of them? But then came the other side of it, the side that softened me, against my better judgment. His words weren't vulgar. They weren't crass. They carried something almost tender in them. He didn't call me hot or reduce me to an object. He called me princess. "You don't know how stunning you are, princess." When I read that for the first time, a warmth spread through me. Princess. The word tasted sweet, like something I secretly wanted to believe about myself, even though no one had ever said it aloud before. In a world where I often felt invisible, here was someone who not only noticed me, but made me feel special, almost exalted. And that contradiction began tearing at me. I felt the weight of suspicion on one side and the flutter of desire on the other. Fear and curiosity danced together in my chest, and I didn't know which one would win. I remember asking him, cautiously, "But why won't you tell me who you are? Why hide behind this name?" The reply came, "Because sometimes it's better to be seen before being known. If I show you my face too soon, maybe the magic disappears." It was frustrating. I wanted answers, not riddles. And yet, I couldn't deny it. His words had a way of pulling me in, making me want more. Every sentence he wrote carried a mix of mystery and tenderness that I couldn't resist. I told myself I was being foolish, that this was dangerous, that I should just block him and move on. But late at night, lying in bed, I found myself replaying his messages in my mind. I tried to imagine his face. Was he young like me? Older? Was he handsome? Ordinary? Forgettable? Each possibility both thrilled and terrified me. And I began noticing something else. He seemed to appear exactly when I did. No matter what time I sat down at a computer in that cafe, within minutes, there he was. "Good afternoon, princess. I knew you'd be here." Coincidence? Or was he closer than I thought? That question gnawed at me until the fear grew louder than the excitement. I began to wonder if he followed me to the cafe, if his eyes tracked me on the streets without me realizing. Could he be one of the boys hunched over a monitor just a few feet away? Could he even be someone I already knew, hiding behind a different name? The uncertainty was suffocating. One part of me screamed to stop, to walk away, to never answer again. But another part whispered that maybe, just maybe, this mystery was a beginning to something real. And in my heart, that whisper grew louder. Because the truth was, his attention made me feel alive. Every time he noticed something about me, the way my hair curled at the ends, the sparkle in my eyes when I laughed, I felt a strange joy. It was intoxicating to be seen so closely, so intimately, even if the attention came from the shadows. It was like living in two worlds. By day, I was just another girl in a small town, walking to school, passing by unnoticed. By afternoon, behind the screen, I was someone's princess. desired, admired, longed for. Looking back now, I realize how dangerous that tension was, how easily a lonely heart can mistake obsession for love, how quickly flattery can disarm fear. But in that moment, caught between suspicion and fascination, I was already slipping into his orbit. The stranger knew too much about me, and yet somehow, I wanted to know more about him. There is a moment almost impossible to notice when it happens, when curiosity quietly transforms into obsession. For me, that moment slipped by without warning. One day, I was questioning this mysterious love wolf, trying to decide if he was dangerous, and the next day, I realized I was waiting for his messages with an eagerness I couldn't disguise. It began innocently enough, short conversations in the late afternoon before I rushed off to school. A few words, a compliment, a tease. But soon, those few minutes weren't enough. I found myself arranging my day around the cafe, timing my visits so I could be sure he would find me online. And, as if he could read my mind, he always did. Within minutes of logging in, the familiar ping would sound, and there he was. "Good to see you again, princess." Every time that word appeared, something fluttered inside me. It was ridiculous, I knew. I didn't even know who he truly was, what he looked like, or if the little he had told me was real. But the way he spoke to me, it had a power I couldn't deny. He never seemed rushed. His words were slow, thoughtful, like each one was chosen carefully, as if he had all the time in the world just for me. He asked about my day, about my thoughts, about things no one else seemed to care about. And then, between those tender questions, came the compliments. Not the shallow, careless type I had heard before, but ones that felt personal. "The way you tilt your head when you laugh, it's beautiful. You don't know how your eyes shine when you're curious." How could he notice such things? I never told him. He had to be watching me, and yet, I wanted him to. It was intoxicating. I felt seen in a way I had never been seen before. Even when my closest friends talked to me, there was always distraction in their voices, half their attention somewhere else. But with him, through those glowing words on a screen, I felt like the only person in his world. The danger I had once felt began to blur, pushed aside by something sweeter, warmer. Instead of fearing his attention, I began craving it. His silence became unbearable. On the days I couldn't make it to the cafe, a hollow ache opened in me. My mind circled around questions I couldn't answer. Was he thinking of me? Was he waiting online, only to be disappointed when I didn't appear? I laughed at myself sometimes, embarrassed at how much I cared. How could someone I had never met affect me so deeply? And yet, there it was. The truth. His absence hurt more than it should have, and his presence lit me up in ways I couldn't explain. Slowly, our conversations grew more intimate. He spoke not only of how I looked, but how I felt. He seemed to sense when I was tired, when something weighed on me. "You seem quieter today. Did something happen at school?" "Don't let anyone make you doubt yourself, princess. You're stronger than you think." Each sentence wove itself into the fabric of my heart. I started to trust him, confiding small pieces of myself in return. The secrets I kept from friends, from family, slipped out easily in the safety of his unseen presence. He was faceless, but strangely, he felt like the safest place I had. And with every confession, every laugh we shared through the screen, the need for more deepened. Our chat stretched longer and longer until the cafe owner gave me a look that said, "Your time is up." Still, I would linger, typing one last sentence, then another, reluctant to let go. That's how the addiction began. Not with a dangerous thrill, but with the quiet comfort of being heard, of being wanted. He became a constant rhythm in my days, a heartbeat I could count on. I no longer asked myself if he was real or not. if he was safe or not. I only asked when I could talk to him again. Looking back now, I can see how dangerous that was. But then, it felt like the beginning of something I had been waiting for all my life. And so, day after day, word after word, I let myself fall deeper into his invisible arms. The more we spoke, the more the line between curiosity and longing blurred. By then, I no longer denied to myself that I wanted to know everything about him. His words had already become the highlight of my days, and yet, a shadow lingered in the background. I still didn't know who he really was. It began to gnaw at me, little by little. At first, I accepted the mystery, even found it romantic. There was something thrilling about not knowing, about letting my imagination fill in the blanks. But imagination has its limits, and mine was reaching them. So, I asked, not once, not twice, but countless times. What's your real name? Where do you live? What do you do when you're not here talking to me? At first, he evaded the questions, answering with jokes, with tenderness, with compliments that distracted me just enough to forget my frustration. But I always circled back. And then, one evening, as if he had finally decided to give me just a little more, he wrote, "My name is Michael." Michael. A simple, ordinary name. And yet, for me, it felt like a key that unlocked the possibility of a real person behind the glowing screen. But that was all he gave me. No last name, no photograph, no details. Just Michael. It wasn't enough. I pushed harder. If you really know me, if you see me the way you say you do, then it's only fair that I know you too. Send me a photo, please. Silence. For a moment, I thought he had logged off, that maybe I had gone too far. My heart pounded in my chest, afraid that I had broken whatever fragile connection existed between us. And then finally, the screen blinked. You don't understand, Princess. I want to. But I'm afraid. What if you don't like what you see? What if I disappoint you? The words disarmed me. They weren't the excuses of someone hiding something sinister. They sounded like the confession of someone vulnerable, someone scared of rejection. And yet, that vulnerability only deepened the mystery. What could he look like that would make him so hesitant? Was he shy? Different? Older than me? The questions multiplied until they filled my mind at night, keeping me awake. I lay in bed imagining him again and again. Sometimes he was tall and handsome, sometimes average, sometimes barely recognizable. My mind painted him in 1,000 different ways, and each version only left me hungrier for the truth. I thought about stopping, about telling him I wouldn't continue unless he revealed himself. But the thought of silence, of losing those words that had become so precious to me, was unbearable. So I compromised with myself. I would keep waiting. I would keep asking. And one day, I believed, he would show me who he really was. But waiting became its own kind of torment. His mystery was no longer just thrilling, it was unsettling. Every time I walked through the cafe door, I scanned the room differently. Was it one of the boys hunched over the glowing monitors? The man at the counter who handed me my ticket? Someone sitting behind me, watching? The possibility that he was near, that his eyes followed me even when I couldn't see him, became both frightening and strangely comforting. He was invisible and yet always present. And that paradox wrapped tighter around me with each passing day. I was drawn to him, addicted to his words, but at the same time, a growing unease whispered, "You don't know who you're letting into your heart." Still, I couldn't let go. I didn't want to. Whatever he was hiding, whatever he feared, I convinced myself it couldn't matter, because by then, it was too late. I was already falling. And with every unanswered question, with every mystery left hanging in the air, my heart only leaned further into the unknown. The day he first suggested we meet, my heart nearly stopped. After weeks of messages filled with mystery, flattery, and unanswered questions, the idea of finally seeing him face to face felt like stepping into a dream. "Instead of a photo," he wrote, "why don't we meet in person? A movie, maybe. Would you like that, princess?" The word princess again. It melted every last bit of doubt inside me. Of course I wanted that. More than anything, I wanted to peel away the veil of mystery and finally look into the eyes of the boy who had occupied my thoughts night after night. We arranged to meet on a Sunday, just after lunch, at the entrance of the movie theater in the mall. I remember the way my hands trembled when I typed back, yes. The very idea of walking toward him, of knowing that this stranger with the beautiful words was about to become real, filled me with both nerves and anticipation. That Sunday, I got ready with a care I had never taken before. I chose my clothes carefully, checked my makeup twice, rehearsed what I might say when I finally saw him. By the time I arrived, my heart was racing so fast I thought people around me could hear it. I got there early, too early. I wanted to be waiting when he arrived. I stood by the entrance, pretending to look at my phone, my eyes scanning every figure who passed by. 1 o'clock? 1:30? 2. My excitement began to twist into unease. I checked the time again and again, my chest tightening with every minute that passed. The crowd around me shifted, people going in and out of the theaters, but none of them was him. By 3:30, I could no longer lie to myself. He wasn't coming. I stood there, my feet aching, my smile long gone, and a cold sadness spreading through me. I wanted to be angry, but more than anything, I just felt foolish. I had believed him. I had believed in us, whatever us even was, and now I was standing alone with nothing but humiliation. Still, I clung to a sliver of hope. Maybe something had happened. Maybe he would explain. I would just have to wait until Monday, when I returned to the cafe. But Monday came, and he didn't appear online. Not then. Not for hours. My stomach twisted with disappointment until finally I saw it. A message he had left on Facebook, sent Sunday morning, hours before our meeting. "I'm sorry, princess. I can't make it today." No explanation, no reason. Just an apology that felt emptier than silence. When he finally appeared online 3 days later, I was ready to confront him. I demanded to know why, asked him why he had set me up to wait for hours, heart racing, only to abandon me without a word. He dodged my questions, circling around them with soft words and excuses that never quite answered. In the end, against all logic, I let it go. My anger was real, but my need for him was stronger. Till it happened again. We set another date, another promise, another Sunday afternoon. This time, I told myself I wouldn't get too excited. I wouldn't let my hopes carry me away. But even as I tried to protect my heart, the moment I stood by those theater doors again, I couldn't help but imagine him walking toward me, smiling, calling me princess. And once again, I waited. And once again, he never came. The second disappointment hurt more than the first, because now I could no longer pretend it was an accident. He had chosen this. He had chosen to let me wait, to let me hope, only to shatter me again. I told myself I was done. I told him so too. I typed out words sharper than I felt. "Don't talk to me again. You've humiliated me enough." But when the next message came, I saw it. I ignored it at first, letting it sit there like a wound I refused to touch. But the truth? The truth is that inside, I was aching to respond. I missed him. I missed the way he made me feel when he wasn't breaking promises. And so, little by little, I gave in again. I thought surely he wouldn't do it a third time. Surely, after hurting me twice, he would finally prove that his words meant something, that he meant something. But I was wrong. The third Sunday came, and I stood once more in that same spot, hope and doubt fighting inside me. And once more, I left with tears pressing against my eyes, anger swirling in my chest. 3 promises, 3 betrayals, 3 wounds he carved into my trust. And yet, I couldn't let him go. Not completely. Because even with the disappointment, even with the lies, his voice, the words that wrapped around me when I sat behind the screen, still felt like home. I hated him for breaking his promises, but I hated myself more for wanting him still. After the 3rd time he failed to show, I swore to myself it was over. Enough humiliation, enough waiting in crowded places with a heart that sank deeper each time the minutes dragged by. I told myself I would never answer his messages again, that I deserved better than empty promises. And for a while, I tried. I ignored him, even when his words appeared on the screen, pleading, apologizing, promising again that he never meant to hurt me. I held my head high at the cafe, pretending I didn't care, while inside, my heart twisted with every unread message. I wanted to respond so badly it burned in my chest, but I didn't. At least, not at first. 2 weeks passed in that quiet battle between my pride and my longing. 2 weeks of pretending I didn't miss him, while every night I lay in bed with his voice echoing in my thoughts. Then one afternoon, I walked into the cafe, just as I had countless times before, and everything shifted. I handed some coins to the young man at the counter, the one who always greeted customers, tall, with dark hair streaked lightly, probably in his mid-20s. He looked at me with a smile that seemed oddly familiar, and then he said it. "Everything's fine, Princess?" My breath caught. The word struck me like lightning. Princess. No one else called me that. Not my friends, not my family, not anyone but him. I froze, staring at him, my heart pounding. For a moment, I tried to convince myself it was a coincidence, a playful nickname he used for many girls. But deep down, I knew. No one else could have said it like that, with the same ease, the same certainty. It was him, the love wolf, the stranger who had filled my days and haunted my nights, the one who had seen too much, who had promised too much, who had let me down again and again. All this time, he had been right in front of me. Suddenly, everything made sense. The way he always seemed to know what I was wearing, the way he appeared online moments after I logged in, the little details about me he could never have guessed from behind a screen. He had been watching me from only a few feet away, hidden in plain sight. The cafe was called Blue Sea, Love Wolf of the Sea. The pseudonym wasn't random. It was a clue, a mask so obvious I couldn't see it until that moment. I walked slowly toward the computer he pointed out, my mind spinning with 1,000 thoughts. I sat down, but my hands trembled too much to type. Instead, I kept glancing at him from the corner of my eye. He was watching me too, not hiding it anymore. Our gazes collided again and again, each time pulling me closer to certainty. It was him. I was almost sure, but almost wasn't enough. Why had he hidden? Why the lies, the broken promises, the secrecy? Why build a wall of distance when he had been standing close enough to touch all along? I thought about confronting him right there, demanding an explanation. But my fear held me back, the same fear that had kept me from cutting him off completely. What if I was wrong? What if it wasn't him? What if I exposed myself only to be humiliated again? So I stayed quiet. I let the silence stretch, pretending to be absorbed in the screen, while every nerve in my body was alert to his presence. And when I left for school later, the moment we passed close in the doorway, his eyes locked with mine, and for a second, I was sure he was about to confess. His lips parted, his gaze softened, but then, nothing. He let me walk past, words unspoken. Still, the truth had already taken root inside me. I didn't need his confession. I didn't need proof. I knew it was him, and yet I didn't understand why. Why he had chosen to hide, why he had let me believe he was somewhere far away when he was right there. Why he had made me wait in vain 3 times when he could have stepped out from behind the counter and spoken to me. But the question no longer mattered as much as the realization that my heart still raced for him. That even after the broken promises, the lies, the disappointment, I still wanted him. And I knew, deep down, that sooner or later he would come closer. He would break the silence. And when he did, I wasn't sure if I'd be able to resist. For days after that moment, the cafe no longer felt the same. It wasn't just a room filled with computers and fluorescent light anymore. It had become a stage for an unspoken drama. Every time I walked in, the air felt charged, heavy with the weight of what I knew but hadn't said aloud. He was always there, behind the counter, greeting customers, fixing a machine, typing something on his own computer. And I was always there too, sitting at my usual spot, pretending to be absorbed in the glowing screen while, in truth, my entire body was tuned to him. We didn't speak, not directly, but our eyes did. His glances followed me everywhere. When I adjusted my hair, when I laughed at something on the screen, when I shifted nervously in my chair, and I, in turn, couldn't stop stealing looks at him. Sometimes our eyes would meet, and in that instant, the rest of the cafe seemed to disappear. It was torture. Sweet, exhilarating torture. I kept waiting for him to break the silence, to come closer, to finally say the words we both already knew. But day after day, nothing happened. Only glances, only silence. And yet, that silence spoke louder than words. It carried a weight, an anticipation that grew heavier each time I walked through the door. My heart pounded every time I handed him a few coins for another half hour at the computer. Every time he said nothing more than, "Machine 10 is free." My lips wanted to ask, "Why did you hide behind the screen? Why did you make me wait?" But I bit them shut, afraid of shattering the fragile spell. Until the day everything changed. It was an ordinary afternoon, like so many others before. The cafe was quiet, the hum of the machines filling the air. I had barely logged in when I sensed it. The shift. He wasn't behind the counter anymore. He was walking toward me. My whole body tensed. My fingers froze on the keyboard. My heart thundered so violently I thought it might burst. He moved slowly, each step deliberate, as if giving me time to prepare. His eyes never left mine. I felt my breath catch, my hands tremble, my legs weaken. I didn't know if I wanted to run or if I wanted to stay frozen there forever. Then he was right beside me. He leaned slightly forward, his hand resting casually but firmly on the edge of the table, forcing me to lift my gaze and meet his. For a heartbeat, neither of us spoke. The world shrank to just him and me, locked in that electric silence. And then, finally, his voice. "So, Princess, is that movie date still on?" The word struck me like it always had, but this time it was different. This time it wasn't glowing on a screen. It was real, warm, spoken from lips that were right in front of me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I could only stare at him, my mind scrambling to catch up with what my heart already knew. It was him. There was no doubt left, no uncertainty. The Love Wolf was no longer just a name on a screen. He was flesh and blood, standing inches away, looking into my eyes. My voice barely came out, soft and trembling. "So it was you? All this time?" He smiled, almost shyly, though his eyes never wavered. "Were you expecting someone else?" I wanted to be angry, to demand why he had hidden, why he had let me suffer through weeks of broken promises. But all of that melted away in that moment, burned away by the sheer intensity of finally facing him. Because the truth was, No matter how many excuses he gave, no matter how much he had made me wait, I was still drawn to him. My heart was already his, long before he dared to come closer. That day, we didn't go to the movies. We just talked, there in the cafe, his voice low, mine hesitant, our words circling around truths too delicate to touch too quickly. He told me he had been afraid I wouldn't like him, afraid the mystery would be better than the reality. He confessed that from the first day I walked through the cafe doors, he had been captivated, but his shyness had trapped him behind the screen. I listened, torn between frustration and tenderness, and when I looked into his eyes, I realized something I couldn't deny. Even with the lies, even with the delays, he had been right about one thing. There was magic in the mystery. And now, finally, that magic had stepped out of the shadows. The following Sunday arrived like a storm in my chest. All week long, I carried his words with me. "So, Princess, is that movie date still on?" And they replayed in my mind until I almost couldn't tell if I had imagined them. But this time, I knew. He wasn't hiding anymore. I spent hours preparing, not just my clothes or my hair, but my courage. Because beneath the excitement, fear still whispered, "What if he doesn't show again? What if I'm left waiting, broken one more time?" But I clung to the look in his eyes when he stood before me, the way his voice trembled as much as mine. This time felt different. When I reached the theater, my hands were cold, but my heart was burning. And there he was, waiting, not behind a counter, not hiding behind a screen, but standing there, watching me with the same intensity that had followed me silently for weeks. For the first time, I didn't have to imagine his face. It was right in front of me, real and undeniable. We bought tickets almost as an afterthought. The movie itself hardly mattered. What mattered was the nearness of him, the way his presence filled the empty spaces I had carried for so long. My nerves quivered as we walked side by side, and though our arms didn't touch, I could feel the electricity between us, humming just beneath the surface. Inside the dark theater, the air was thick with unspoken words. For a while, we sat quietly, our eyes fixed on the screen, but our attention anywhere but the story unfolding there. I could feel the heat radiating from his body, the tremor in his hand as it rested near mine. And then, slowly, he moved. His fingers brushed against mine, tentative, testing, as if asking permission without words. My breath caught, and I didn't pull away. Instead, I let his hand find mine, let our fingers intertwine. The world narrowed in that moment, shrinking until nothing existed but the warmth of his skin against mine. Time blurred. I don't remember the details of the movie, only the pounding of my heart, the quiet in my chest that came from finally being seen, not from behind a screen, but here, in the open. And then it happened. On the screen, two characters leaned toward each other, lips meeting in a kiss. Almost instinctively, we turned, our eyes locking. I don't know who moved first. Maybe it was both of us, drawn by the same invisible pull. But in the next heartbeat, his lips were on mine. It wasn't careful or practiced or perfect. It was trembling, urgent, filled with the weight of weeks of longing and mystery. And yet, it was everything. The spark I had felt in his words, the sweetness of his attention, the ache of his absence, all of it melted into that one kiss. When we pulled back, the movie was still playing. People around us were still breathing, living, unaware. But for me, the world had changed. Because once his lips touched mine, I knew there was no going back. We kissed again, and again, as if each time was not enough, as if we had to make up for all the missed moments, all the Sundays that had ended in disappointment. Every kiss erased a broken promise. Every touch rewrote the story we had started behind the screen. By the time the lights came on, I couldn't even remember the ending of the film. All I remembered was the way his hand gripped mine tightly, the way his lips lingered near my ear as if he still had more to say. And in that silence, I finally understood why I had waited, why I had forgiven, why I had stayed even when I told myself to leave. Because beneath all the lies and secrecy, there had always been something real, something I had felt from the first message. That kiss was proof that sometimes love hides in shadows, afraid of the light, but when it finally dares to step forward, it burns brighter than anything else. That night, lying in bed, I no longer had to imagine his face or invent his voice in my mind. I had his smile, his touch, his kiss to carry with me, and I knew this was just the beginning. It has been 3 years since that kiss in the darkened theater, and even now I can still feel the tremor in my hands, the rush of heat in my cheeks, the dizzying certainty that my life had just changed forever. 3 years, and yet sometimes it feels like it all happened yesterday, like I'm still that girl walking nervously into the cafe, not knowing that behind the counter stood the one who would become the center of her world. Looking back, it's hard to believe how our story began. A stranger with a pseudonym. A string of messages that carried both fear and fascination. The broken promises that nearly made me walk away. And the shocking discovery that the person I was falling for had been near me all along. It could have ended differently. So many times I almost cut the thread that tied us together. So many nights I lay awake asking myself why I stayed, why I kept answering, why I kept hoping. And yet, every time, his words drew me back. His voice, soft, trembling, yet filled with a tenderness I had never known, pulled me closer until I couldn't escape, even when I wanted to. Now, 3 years later, I understand something I didn't back then. Love doesn't always arrive wrapped in clarity. Sometimes it comes hidden in mystery, wrapped in fear, carried by doubts. Sometimes it tests you first, asks if you're willing to endure confusion before offering the truth. And I was willing. The boy who once called himself Love Wolf is no longer a shadow behind a screen. He is the man who walks beside me every day, the one whose laughter fills the quiet spaces of my life, the one who still, even now, calls me princess. And though I once thought the word was silly, even dangerous, today it feels like the most tender truth, because in his eyes, that's who I am. There are still moments when I wonder, what if I had given up after the first broken promise? What if I had turned away after the second, the third? What if I had never recognized the word that slipped from his lips that day at the counter? But I didn't. And because I didn't, I found something that changed me. He showed me that love can be born out of strangeness, out of uncertainty, even out of pain. That what begins as mystery can blossom into trust, into something so steady and real it feels like the ground beneath your feet. Sometimes I tease him about those early days, about the way he hid behind a screen and made me wait in vain. He always smiles, a little sheepish, and says he was just afraid I wouldn't like him, afraid he wasn't enough. And maybe that's the truest part of our story, because love doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence, for courage, for the willingness to finally step out of the shadows and say, "Here I am." When I look at him now, I no longer see the mysterious stranger who unsettled me with his watchful eyes. I see the man who chose me, the one I chose back, again and again, even when it hurt. 3 years have passed, and I can say with certainty, it was worth every unanswered question, every broken promise, every restless night. Because all of it led me here, to a love that feels like it was waiting for me all along. And sometimes when he leans close and whispers, "Princess, I still feel that first flutter in my chest, the same one I felt the day his words first lit up my screen. Only now, I don't have to imagine. Now, he is real, and he is mine. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next chapter of love and destiny. And if you'd like to support our channel, you can contribute through the Super Thanks option. It truly helps us keep sharing these stories with you. See you in our next video, where another unforgettable journey awaits.